Hello, and welcome to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with Astrologer Shelley Overton.
Hello, and welcome to the August 20th, 2021 edition of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast with me, your astrologer in Central Florida. My name is Shelley Overton, and I want to welcome you. I've got these earbuds in my ears, and actually I can't hear myself very well. It's kind of blocking my hearing. Anyway, we are going to be talking about what's going on in the sky this week, and whatever else comes up. I'm just going to adjust some of the screenshots here on my computer so I can see what's going on better and move the chart around a little bit. So we just had Uranus go retrograde last night, and it was interesting. I have got a number of anomalies going on in my day-to-day life, and my daughter just moved into her own apartment yesterday on campus, and that was a lot of fun. She's got a really nice little unit and a few roommates, and I'm excited for her. So it was interesting because the day she moved in was the same day Uranus retrograded. So that in and of itself makes me wonder if it's going to last longer than January of next year when Uranus goes direct. So what happens is planets have cycles, and when they are in specific signs, especially in a situation where it's triggering certain behavior, and I don't think I would assign higher education to Uranus, and I wouldn't assign Taurus to education. But when things happen at a moment when a planet changes signs or changes direction, you have a shift. And so that begins a cycle with that planet. And because it's a retrograde, it means, oh, wow, right now you're initiating something new, which in this case is starting a move to a new place. And then that very same evening, a planet changes directions to go backwards. So now what is the energy of that situation? Are you going back towards events that may have already happened? And interestingly, in my daughter's case, she just moved out of a dorm, and there was an individual who was giving her a difficult time due to her lifestyle and her choices with her boyfriend. And my daughter, fortunately, was only in that situation for about 6 weeks. And then she moved out for a few weeks until she moved back into her apartment just yesterday. And as she was getting ready to move into her new apartment, her old roommate moved in with someone else that my daughter had made friends with and is now a friend on campus. So her new friend on campus is now the roommate with my daughter's old roommate. And so it turns out that she now has inherited these issues, which are coming back into my daughter's environment because of her friendship with this other girl. And so now she's reliving some of the issues from her dorm days, and the new roommate now has those, but they will resolve it. It's just interesting, the timing of these events as we wrap up one cycle and kind of go into a new situation, but retrograde back to old energy. So kind of what I wanted to discuss with this week's podcast is how Uranus or Aquarius energy can affect our lives on a day-to-day basis, because I did kind of touch on it, but I don't know that I gave more specific ideas on how that really expresses in our world. And so living with a planet as potent as Uranus can mean a number of different things, starting kind of larger and moving into your personal life. So it's larger, it's going to maybe bring weather events into our life, which I did mention last week, but it can make it, like for here in Orlando, the weather is much clearer this week. We haven't had rain for a couple days in the approaching Uranus. Interestingly, Orlando has kind of a similar chart to my own chart. It's set up with the Scorpio rising, and it has strong Uranus in this actual environment. So because of that, now we have an event associated with Uranus. It is affecting this area with clearer weather. As you can see, I still have voice issues, unfortunately, which personally I don't think is going to shift until Saturn goes direct in Aquarius, or the end of the year, or even January of next year when Uranus gets going direct again at a time when Saturn is direct. So, my throat is really strongly being affected, and my ability to communicate, my ability within my own personal life environment to be heard in family situations or even friendship situations seems to be really potent right now. So if you have third house energy in your chart, you may be experiencing throat issues as well. So I'm sorry. Always messing with appearance on public forums. Anyway, so having the environment, the weather affect you, it can be, that doesn't mean that other places won't be extreme weather or have other events that are affected by this. So Uranian influences can also mean chemical fires, chemical explosions, chemistry in general. We find out, especially in Earth energy of Taurus, we find chemicals in our food and our eating, maybe health issues that arise. I noticed an Instagram person that I follow popped up in my feed yesterday, and it turns out that she had just this year found out she had a stage 4 sinus cancer, and she thought she just had a sinus infection. It turned out to be a cancer that was stage 4. She had to find solutions that were much more extreme for a solution to, try and save her life. And she managed to do that. She did a combination of holistic and chemo and radiation, but it ended up eradicating the cancer. And so it turned out that her whole family, her brother and her mother, also had this similar events with cancer, because they had actually lived in an area that they dumped chemical waste very close to their home. And then this was just coming out at a time when strong Aquarian energy was present. And so there was also Uranian or Aquarian focused chemistry that was associated with fighting this cancer. So not only was it a cancer that likely came about due to chemistry and chemicals being dumped, but it also used chemistry to fight those particular events, and also radiation, which is a very strong Uranian issue or event associated with Aquarius and Uranus. So those kind of events can happen at these times. What else? Anything that is intellectual or expanded consciousness or clarity, organizing your household, finding things that used to appeal to you do not any longer appeal to you. You want to get rid of them. So that's how Aquarius can come into our environment in a larger sense. Now, in a personal sense, just getting ready for the podcast, I was looking into having my chart up, and out of nowhere, the font that I use, that is the glyphs for all the images of planets and signs, had disappeared out of my program. Not there any longer. Always there every day, and I've had issues in the past, but it's been pretty stable. And then today, it's the actual font is within the application. I found it, I looked it up, I did the research, it's there. It's just not looking for it properly. So I had to reboot my whole computer and the application to reinstall and actually see those glyphs, those fonts, so I could look at a chart and read this for you. So, I've said this in the past, I have a ton of Aquarius and Mercury in my chart. And I think out of anything, I probably have more difficulty with energy associated with Mercury and Aquarius and Uranus. on a day-to-day basis. But anyway, so in a personal situation, you can find your mind isn't as sharp when Uranus goes retrograde, especially if you have strong Aquarius in your chart. If you have Mercury in your chart, Aquarian energy is like a more intensified version of that. So it's kind of similar to if you had a strong moon in your chart and then Neptune retrograded. It's like that same emotional energy expresses on a more intensified level. So are we an air energy? Are we a earth energy, a fire, or a water energy? And the water people, they're more affected by Neptune, by Cancer, by Pisces, by Scorpio, and Pluto. And so that same thing applies when you're looking at an air sign or an air planet, which Uranus is an air planet. So the air signs, which would be Gemini, Mercury, Mercury for planet, Gemini, Virgo, Aquarius, Uranus, and Libra, and Venus through the Libra portal would be all air, and you're affected. That being said, this week and currently we have a moon in Aquarius, and the moon today's Friday the 20th, the moon is trining Venus in Libra, which Venus just moved into Libra. She's only at 5 degrees of Libra. And so she's answering to the moon energy currently as I'm doing this podcast. What does that mean? Well, we take the planets or the lights, which the moon is a light, and the moon in Aquarius brightens our mood, brightens our demeanor, because the moon typically is emotional and moody and answers to whatever sign the moon is in. If you have strong Cancer in your chart, whatever planet is in Cancer in your chart is now answering to the moon in Aquarius. So it takes off a lot of the moodiness, a lot of the broodiness, and we go up in our minds. We're much more likely to want to clear up our home environment, neaten up, be more meticulous, or just clear out the junk, clear out the mind clutter, clear out the physical room clutter. We have an interest in things like crystals. I've got a lot of crystals over here on my windowsill. And the clarity that crystals can bring us, we can want to bring those into our environment. We might do things that are more technological, maybe redo our website. There can be difficulty or awakening with technology. We can be more attracted to how technology improves our lives. Intellectual or emotional energy that may bog us down, we are looking to shed and get away from. That means that if we have family or friends that are in our lives, which normally are maybe part of our integrated or codependent nature, we want to remove them. We want to get away from them. We need more alone time. And especially right now, we have Mars and Mercury in Virgo. We've got a late degree sun in Leo, which will move into Virgo in a few days. I think the 23rd, the 22nd. So coming up on Sunday, the full moon is at 29 degrees of Aquarius, and then immediately goes into Pisces. So the Pisces-Virgo axis in the sky, which means up there in the sky we have the sun in Virgo and the moon in Pisces. So it creates an opposition and an axis of energy, where there's a synergy, a connectivity between Virgo, which is the intellectual analysis, perfectionism. It can rule education and understanding on an analytical side. It can be a little more dogmatic, and we can say, well, I don't want to do that because that's just not the way we do it. And then we have Pisces on the other side with the moon saying, this is really emotional for me. This is really sentimental and integrated. And maybe we will be in kind of a conflict between our mind and our hearts, between our emotions and our need for clarity, our need for understanding a more meticulous nature of how things line up, how things work together and fold in together and dovetail. And it can also, in a positive sense, really integrate the energies of Pisces and Virgo and really make us more sensitive. Virgo is a very sensitive energy. They can be overwhelmed by people, which is why they tend to pull back and be more loner energy. They need time to process the material world. And I think myself as a Virgo and a lot of the Virgos I know, they come across at times initially as standoffish because they really protect their energy out of the gate because they are so sensitive. I mean, I've been called sensitive all my life, and it really took the maturity of age to recognize that that's okay. That's perfectly fine and actually more integrated in the human experience to be aware of energy of other people. And the axis of Pisces really does bring in that energy of knowingness and connectivity that balances out the Virgo side of things. And then the Virgo intellect can balance out the Pisces codependence of needing that connectivity. But then the Virgo says, I need alone time. So you can have connectivity if you balance it with the alone time. And Libran people out there will really enjoy the idea of balance, and the signs balance each other out when you go to the opposite sign. So Venus can really enhance the diplomacy and the need for balance and really be the astrological energy that helps us to find our balance in each individual sign. And so wherever Venus is, and especially now that she is in Libra, she's bringing forth that need for us to find our balance. So whatever your sun sign is, look to the opposite sign. I'll just quickly go through the signs here so you know what your opposite sign is if you're not really aware. So Aries and Libra are opposites, and Libra rules the descendant or the upper half of the zodiac, where Aries rules the lower half and really brings in the new sense of self and identity, where Libra can bring in us and we. Aries is me and my. So they work together to help us understand what we are versus what we are within a relationship. And each sign looks for the opposite to understand the balance. And Aries is a very independent, self-driven sign. And the Libra energy, when he meets a Libra, or a woman who's an Aries meets a Libra man, which my daughter has recently, the person she's talking to right now is Libra, and she's an Aries. And they can balance that energy. And I think it's a really wonderful integrative energy to have someone who's really driven and understands a sense of self, but is shown how to be a partner with someone else. And the other person, who may be a Libra, looks to Aries to find their own idea of independence when they may get too bogged down in what the couple is. The second sign is Taurus. And Taurus is ruled by Venus, and she is about value and self and growth. She's about the material world and can be very materialistic. Not going to say Scorpio, the opposite sign of Taurus, isn't materialistic, but Scorpio understands how we integrate value together as a couple. Scorpio understands commitment. Venus wants and desires a commitment and wants that rooted in feeling, because remember, Taurus is an earth sign ruled by Venus, so the Venus energy is expressed in air, so she needs somebody to ground her, and the Taurus energy grounds. And Libra Venus is air, Taurus is grounding Venus, and so the opposite of that is water in Scorpio. And so the water of Scorpio makes the materiality of Taurus much more emotional, much more integrated into how we put sentimentality on money, as well as the understanding of money together with someone and how the flow, energetic flow, goes between people. And so that is the energy of Pluto. And Taurus, Scorpio, I see that coupling as a really interesting coupling, because it isn't necessarily one, and I actually I have Jupiter in Taurus and Pluto in Virgo and Scorpio rising with Moon Neptune in Scorpio. So I have a lot of both of those signs energetically, but they're kind of an anomaly for me integrated as an astrologer, because I understand the opposites of, Virgo and Pisces and Aries and Libra, but the opposition energy of Taurus and Scorpio is, I think, a little bit harder to define. And it's, it's a water-earth balance, so it can be muddied. It means that both signs really do value being in a relationship. And so you will see Taurus being very strict and structured, much more traditional when it comes to money, when it comes to love and being in a relationship. And Scorpio is much more passionate, more probably viscerally driven than Taurus. Taurus is a slower energy that really integrates over time, and Scorpio is taken away by passion. And so there is probably a polarity of how that energy is expressed, but a very cooperative energy because earth and water are in the same vein energetically as an element. Elementally is a better way to phrase it, are in a better cooperation because earth, water, fire. And if your sun sign is earth and water, you get along, you understand each other in kind of a fundamental way. And then the fire and air understand each other, but you mix earth and air or earth and fire, you get a lot of, not necessarily a cooperative energy. So they're going to have a harder time really understanding each other. You have Gemini and Sagittarius. So both are really driven by transport and communication on some level. Sagittarius can be more of a blunt communicator. I guess Gemini maybe as well. Gemini, I think the energy of Gemini as a communicator is more, I know this, why don't you know that? And Sagittarius as a communicator is like, it's quite apparent that this is the way it is. Boom, I'm going to tell you what it's like. And so they're much more matter of fact in their communication style, and Gemini is more of, I know this, don't you know this, I told you so. And so you can kind of see the difference in a communication between people, that they are really not necessarily communicating in the same way, but they have the commonality of wanting to be on the go, wanting energy to be continually moving. And Gemini will be more polarized within its own self, so that's why they're the twins. They can be understanding and sympathetic, and then they can turn and be completely self-interested. And you don't necessarily know which one you get. And there can be many nuances of that energy. And it's so funny because Mercury, I can feel the energy of Mercury when I'm talking about Gemini. I get really energetically, vibrationally changed. Like I can really feel almost lightheaded and dizzy when I think of the energy of Gemini, because it's just so highly electrical. The synapses are really going quickly with Gemini. And then Sagittarius integrates energy through action. So if things get to be too much for a Sagittarius, they're on the go and they're gone. They need a change of scenery and a change of mind. And so they work together through really enjoying how they can move to new environs, but yet Gemini is very intellectualizing, where Sagittarius is in the body. Sagittarius is a fire sign, and the energy needs to keep moving and going. And that's why the activity is so important for Sagittarius. And Gemini, it's almost as if you have polarized sides of a magnet, and when you put them together on their same sides, they don't like it. They have to be opposite. So there's this synergy or energy of kinetic motion, mental kinetic motion that Gemini has, where it goes from one polar end to the other, and then it comes around on its own magnetic energy. So I hope you can understand that visualization of Gemini. But it really is a kinetic mental energy, whereas Sagittarius is probably more kinetic physical and does well with always keeping in motion and can be more hyperactive physically, whereas so more ADHD, and Gemini and Virgo can be ADD, so mental hyperactivity versus physical hyperactivity. But they work together. They can work together more fire and air. And then we move on to Cancer and Capricorn. Cancer is emotional water moon. The opposite is Capricorn earth. So you have water and earth again, and they work together. You can have kind of a muddied energy, but again, bricks can be made of mud and clay, which is a really awesome thing. And that's a great imagery for Capricorn, which wants the physical, tangible brick energy. It just understands the material world in a very engaged way. So Capricorn is going to build materiality. It is ambitious to keep things growing and moving in the material world, in the hardcore realm and structures. Engineering is a really great Capricorn field. Building, construction, systems, anything that needs organization. The container store comes to mind. How can we organize and contain? And then Cancer, the moon, uses and utilizes that materiality in its energy to feel at home and to make the environs really warm and loving and beautiful, a beautiful experience, an aesthetically pleasing one, an emotionally pleasing one, a nurturing place. And so they both work together in having an environment, probably emotional and physical in the material world. They're both rather material oriented. I find Cancer to be one of the more materialistic signs just from a sense of security. Of course, Taurus, Capricorn, and Cancer, I'd say that probably the top materialistic signs of the zodiac. Maybe Leo thrown in for a little bit of spice there as well. But yeah, Cancer, Capricorn really work together in the material world to create like a hospitable environment, hospitality, and a really wonderful masculine, feminine expression. It is home and career in the axis of polarity. Now we go over to Leo and Aquarius. I'm not really one who has a lot of that axis in my chart, except for maybe a Leo Venus, but it is such a wonderfully emotionally satisfying axis. It is the friendship axis. Leo is one-on-one personal friendships and really creating bonds with children and playfulness. It is so creative and lovely flowing energy. And it is the sign of the leader. It is the sun in the sky as a ruler. And the opposite would be Uranus and Aquarius, which can create such a high vibrating intellectual energy and clarity that it's like it makes the sun burn brighter, because the sun is the fire of energy, and the rays coming off of the Uranian light. So it's like a combination of the sun and the rays. And so I just find that axis to be really the most enticing and vibrating, creative, intellectual in the axis of Aquarius, and creative and warm and inviting on Leo. And they really can work together to create a wonderful social environment. Aquarius is the sign of humanitarianism and environment. So the environment's important on a larger scale, on a country scale, or the environment of a business. Because remember, the 12th house for Aquarius is Capricorn and structure. So you get the environment of the career. And that's really what Aquarius rules, is the people, the co-workers. And then Leo is also the boss, but it can be the friendship that really helps you grow and love and learn to love and love yourself, which is really a wonderful thing. And having the fact that we are moving into Aquarian times, we are really triggering the Leo Aquarius axis, and it's going to be a stronger friendship bond. We're looking at probably more people becoming more like family during this time of Aquarius. So because the Leo is the balance to overly Aquarian energy, which can be more detached and intellectualizing people, Leo humanizes people. So it's a really great combination of how can we integrate the experience of being human with one-on-one personal relationships and socializing versus this is the idea of how we should get together as a society. So we really bring, I've got chills with this, we really bring together the sun and Uranus for those bonds among people. And I think that's going to be even more important as we go further into the Aquarian times. And the last signs are Virgo and Pisces. So Virgo rules work and health, and it intellectualizes the material world. It really is probably the fastest moving of the three earth energies, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, because Taurus wants to understand things before it really commits in a physical way. Capricorn is busy getting everybody to cooperate and the ducks in a row on a physical sense. Like, you're in charge, you take care of this part, and you take care of that part, and you take care of that part, and I'm going to be the one that coordinates all of that. So it really isn't as fast moving because it probably is much more about the paperwork. And I mean, Virgo's about paperwork, but Capricorn needs to have all the legalities taken care of, where Virgo, once it understands what is right and what is true, it wants to take action and make it happen in a physical sense. So it tends to be much more ready to get going with the materiality of things, and much more, okay, we took care of this and we took care of that. Very busy energy. And Pisces, of course, opposite, much more laid back. It is the Rasta of the zodiac. It is the energy that brings in cooperative energy, but can also be codependent energy. It is the drug and addiction part of the zodiac, where Virgo is the health and nutritional and holistic side of things. It can be much more earthy and pagan and Wiccan, where I think that Axis energy is also there with Pisces. Pisces are the bohemians of the zodiac, and the sages and the gurus and the people who meditate all day and just enjoy the spiritual energy of the meditation. So that's where Pisces is the wise one that doesn't sweat the small stuff and brings that wise knowingness to everything. It can be the energy of indigenous people, shamans, where Virgo is the doctor and the nurse and maybe the chiropractor, someone who has a sense of presence and place and credibility, where Pisces doesn't need credibility. It needs to be in the moment. I just paused for a water break and it kind of reminded me, and this is even an example, smart water. Like, think about the idea of smart water. Smart is the Virgo, water is the Pisces. So Pisces needs water as an environment, and Virgo needs to be practical about how we are hydrated and take care of the health. So that kind of gives you the polarities of the zodiac. I hope that helps a little bit understanding it. I'm going to go over what to expect for the rest of the week. You know, as per usual, my ephemeris and planner is very messy because every day has so much stuff going on. We're building up now with an Aquarius moon to, pardon me, angels coming in here on my nose portal. But the full moon is happening Sunday, and that means it happens when the sun is opposite the moon at 8:02 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or Eastern Daylight Time, my bad. And so we're going to have that intensity of Aquarius. Again, Uranus just retrograded. He rules Aquarius. So from now, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that energy is going to be heightened. I mean, I can tell you right now, watch out in the body, you know, with the Virgo energy coming in with Mercury and Mars in Virgo currently. I mean, I'm talking to you. I told you I get a little lightheaded and anxious talking about this, but I really am pulling a lot of energy into my body right now, neurological energy. My hands feel like they're vibrating, and I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost as if my nerves are cutting off energy to my hands, and they're kind of tingly, like when they go to sleep. So maybe breathe more deeply, which is a really good Aquarian thing, or any air signs. Bring that air into your lungs. So whenever you're getting a little, and I have this happen to me, the electrical energy when it comes in swirls around my head. And if I get too much into the electrical, I can get lightheaded and get carried away. My body starts to get jittery, and especially Mercury in Virgo. Right now, it's sitting within 2 degrees of my sun, and Mars is sitting right on my 10-degree Uranus in Virgo, and my Pluto at 15 degrees. So, or it might even be 14. But it's right between my Uranus and my Pluto. So it's intense energy going on right now for my era. If you're born about 20, I mean, not in the 60s, mid 60s, and you're born in the sign of Virgo, you're going to be feeling this pretty intensely because you have that Uranus-Pluto conjunction. So even from mid 60s to early 70s, you'll feel that. Anyway, yeah, so overly engaging in the electrical intensity up in your mind, so over analyzing or keying into the electrical right now can really light you up. And I mean, I'm really feeling it at this moment, and that kind of concerns me because I have to talk about it, but I know Mercury comes in that fast when I start talking about him, so I don't want to do that. And then we move over to the moon and Saturn, because right now moon is in Aquarius, and Saturn is at 8 degrees Aquarius, so they're almost exactly the same part of the sky. So it's just really intensified electrical energy. There was some lightning not too long ago, about 10 minutes ago. I heard some thunder, and Uranus rules electricity and lightning and thunder because there needs to be an expression of that energy. So I do foresee this weekend being really strong with lightning strikes, with electronics issues with that. If you feel like you're getting, like I am, kind of spiraling up into the electrical energy, ground. I don't know if I would ground outside necessarily, but maybe rub your feet, get some of that Neptunian Pisces energy in too, which water is a conductor of electricity. So that might help dispel some into the emotional energy, and then ground through the material, even clapping, for me right now, I think clapping is a really good thing, or stomping your feet, because it grounds you into your body. You can get really wired up and out if you're in an Aquarian energy, a Gemini energy, or a Virgo energy. Libra, probably really susceptible with Venus in Libra right now. Okay, let's see what else we have. Oh, and the other thing, I wrote this down. I started keeping track of things that I feel physically, like if I'm under the weather with maybe a slight fever, or if I have a sore throat, or can't breathe, or maybe congestion, anything like that. I've been writing it down to see how I'm integrating energy, and that's probably an Earth sign thing to do, or a Virgo thing to do. But really, as an astrologer, if you start keeping track of what goes on in the news, or what goes on with your friends and your family, and how they react to different moon cycles, and how you react physically to different energies out there, as you learn and grow through astrology, you can go back into your daytime. So this is my daily planetary guide. You can go back into that. I have these for probably, I think I've kept at least 12 of them for the last 12 years. And, if there's a particular thing, I'm like, what did I do at that time? How did it affect me? You now have a record of what you were experiencing with that particular aspect, or that particular transit or shift of energy. So you can go back and go, oh, yeah, I remember going through that. So this week, I actually was doing some physical work, and I hurt my back. But at the same time, sleeping, my hips were starting to bother my sciatic nerve. So I went out, and this is just kind of a little story also about how Aquarius can affect us. Aquarius rules the nervous system and how we integrate electrical energy throughout the whole body, and our joints, where we have nerve endings and joints that move energy in our bodies. And because I was sleeping on my side, predominantly on one side, on my right side, I think my hips are a bit out of whack, and that can affect the sciatic nerve. And so when I was doing a lot of this physical labor, my hips the nerve right at the bottom where it goes to my legs was thrown a little out of whack. And so what happens is the pain refers down the nerves. And when I was doing some work, I had a shooting pain in my knee. And last week it was in my left knee. This week it's in my right knee. And then when I was doing more lifting than I should have, my lower back took all the weight. Even though I know to lift with my legs, and I'm always very conscientious of that, it was just a situation where I was trying to do it rapidly. So I didn't do it as conscientiously. And for the last few days, my back has been in shooting pain. So I've had to wrap it with like the support and take some Advil and all these things. And it's affecting me that way. And I know better, but yet other energies, as we experience astrology playing out in our world, we are also susceptible to our own way of thinking about things and how we integrate the energies that come into us through interactions with other people or situations we have to endure. I'm thinking of Afghanistan right now and how Aquarian energy is really playing out in that particular theater, especially as Uranus turns retrograde this whole week. We've pulled out, and now all this energy is expressing as a humanitarian crisis. And then Uranus, which rules humanitarianism, shifted direction retrograde. So what's happening is we are moving through the energy, or Afghans are moving through this energy. Humanitarian wise, they're saying this is our collective society, and we are shifting energy, and energy that supported that particular environment moved out. And of course, there's also the whole ideology of American mindset on helping other countries, that we've been there for so long. I personally know someone who is in Kabul for 3 years. The last 3 years, just got back a few months ago. And so I'm actually really, really happy he was able to get out in time and didn't have to go through that, because, I'm very close with all his family and have been for many years. And it's like, wow, this whole situation is coming to a head. But as it moves forward, and had moved forward with Uranus direct coming to a head towards the retrograde, we see this shift of energy right at that moment of shift. And then now we have to go back and experience what just happened. So, hey, here is a country that had not really been in charge of its own system of government for the time America has been there. And now we've got this movement going on where now the society is saying this is a direct reflection of who they are as a society, and it's coming out in their society, like our presidency has come out in our societies. And what happened in January here in America, we see that coming out to be dealt with. And they have that same thing happening. But now, as Uranus goes retrograde, we have to answer for what we've done over the time we were in Afghanistan for over a decade. And they have to answer for what went on in their country. And we have to come to new conclusions. We have to find new solutions for those problems. But at the same time, we're reviewing what has been, what that system has been, and what our understanding, our mindset, Aquarian, has been around the collective understanding of our societies. As an American, the Afghan people now they're trying to, I know the government here in America is trying to fast track some of the passports and the ability, the visas to get to America, and take them in as refugees. I don't know how that's going to go. I haven't really listened to a lot of the information coming through about that, but we are having to really review our system and how we think about humanity and humanitarian things. I personally have been raised all my life with the Middle East being the main news story, or one of the main news stories, always coming back to the Middle East, always coming back to the Middle East. And a long time ago, back in my 20s, I really wondered why that was such an issue. Why are we always talking about the Middle East when there's Australia and there's, all of South America? We never hear anything about South America unless there's a major news event in, say, Brazil, or, just a gas situation in Venezuela that affects the government there. Why is it always the Middle East? And obviously it's the oil. And so as we're moving to these cycles of late degree Neptune ruling oil and this whole new Aquarian energy coming in around chemicals, and we've got oil creating plastic, oil creating chemicals in our beauty products, in our food. I mean, there's just so much of it. So we are really having to address how we interact with chemicals, chemistry, oil, people of foreign cultures, everything in the Middle East, and what it represents. Humanitarianism, sexism, racism, everything is kind of wrapped up in that whole energy. But yes, it does disseminate all over the globe, but it kind of comes to a head in America anyway, in our focus, as a crisis in the Middle East, in Israel, in Palestine, in Egypt, and all across the oil countries and the stands. We've got this really part of our fabric that has to be addressed. And as Uranus retrogrades and goes into that whole section of the sky of retrograde until January, this is a review. What are we really going to do? Is this what we want? We've transited through the beginning degrees of Taurus with Uranus and Taurus. We are at 14 degrees right now of Taurus. That's almost halfway. And what are we doing? What have we done to make the world better energetically for the physical living of our lives for people all over the world? And what have people in their own countries done to further better their humanity? And it is about humanity. That's really what Aquarius is about, is humanity. So anyway, we've got that full moon coming up. It's the end of a story. It can definitely relate to what's going on in the Middle East. It is about the culmination of that storyline within 3 days of Uranus going retrograde. You're not going to escape it. It's part of the storyline for right now. It is also a storyline in our own lives. Where do we see our freedom as individuals? Are we free as an individual? It is the collective storyline that seems to be making its way around the world, but America, it has polarized us on the vaccine. So what's going to happen? Where's it going to go? We don't know yet. Virgo opposite Neptune, Virgo planets opposite Neptune, definitely what is the solution for health? We have Mars in Virgo. It's trying to find a solution. Mercury wants to understand it. Mars will follow it up with practical action. And then the Sun brings in the ego. And really in Virgo, the ego is very humble. It is the Mother Teresa, the humanitarian energy of service that we fall into in this time of year. We have the therapist energy of Scorpio. We have the diplomacy of Libra. And so this part of the sky of the late summer into fall is really about how we all work together. And so I guess from any standpoint, the rest of this week, we are going to see some of that coming about. The moon in Aquarius, then it's in Pisces. And next week, the moon goes into Gemini and Taurus. Let me just see where we're at here. So by Friday of this coming week, the moon is in Taurus. So Aries, Taurus, and right today, like I said, we've got moon in Aquarius, then Pisces, which is deep emotionalism about it. Probably also a spike for those few days with COVID. And then we have Aries, which is wanting to not listen to authority. Aries is the drive to get stuff done in the physical world, so we're going to just do it even if. And then Taurus moon is going to be about human qualities and growing something, and what are we doing with our loved ones. So anyway, let me see if there's anything else I want to tell you. My voice is obviously getting worse, but yeah, we've got, I'll just tell you what I've written down for most of the days. Saturday, education administration, lessons from that. We've got a trine between Mars and Uranus, so that's going to be specifically in Earth And it means that there's going to be some kind of earth event, probably another earthquake or lightning strike, or fire from lightning can happen. Earthquakes seem to be really strong with this energy, especially Mars in an earth sign and Taurus, Uranus. So look for that. Sunday is the full moon. Make those little events that you do. What is the word? I guess for lack of a better word, a moon ritual. So make your ritual about release, about letting go of the little hamster wheel that you have, the storyline on hamster wheel. I go over and over this idea, let it go, write it down. Whatever you've been worrying about, this is the time to really release your worries on a life level. It is really the cleaning house of your mentality, and that energy coming in with the full moon at 29 Aquarius, second full moon of a month. And then immediately moon goes into Pisces, sun enters Virgo at 5:35 p.m. So in the morning, the moon enters Pisces. In the afternoon, late afternoon Eastern time, the moon enters Virgo, or the sun enters Virgo. So we fall into a much more considerate energy, humble, and maybe a little bit escapist. So just know that the weekend is going to finish off with that moon in Pisces. And then early in the week, much more sentimental, harder to get going next week. Monday's going to be like, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm really emotional. I'm really sentimental, and probably cannot motivate. And if you can take Monday off, I would do it. But by Wednesday, moon in Aries, getting going again. And then I've got Thursday is paperwork, administration, look for some stress, ending and adjustment, and then an ultimate outcome of what we've been working for. And then next Friday, we'll get into that next Friday. So I hope you join me next Friday. And thank you for putting up with my horsey voice. And I hope you have a good week. Definitely do your full moon ritual of release. It is more of an air energy. So if you can release through meditation, release, I'm just watching, I don't know what it is. It must be that same thing every week, that square that goes over, I think it's maybe the neighbor's fence. When they close the fence, there's a post that goes over there. It does it every week when I do this. I don't know. Anyway, I'm getting a little bit flying off in my air energy right now. So take care, ground in. I wish you the best, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks for watching. Take care.
You have been listening to the AstroEnergy Astrology Show. If you would like to get a private reading with Shelley, please contact her through angeliczodiac.com or at so@angeliczodiac.com. You can arrange a reading through the Angelic Zodiac page at facebook.com as well. Check out Angelic Zodiac on Instagram for up-to-date information on events, discounts, blogs and planetary transits at Angelic Zodiac 1 on Instagram. If you would like to see Shelley's art, ShelleyOverton.com, or for astrology art, go to astroart.net. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com. Other music will be credited within the show. Advice given in the program is intended for entertainment purposes only. Join us here next week for more of the AstroEnergy Astrology Show podcast. You can find us on iTunes and Google Play, and where podcasts are accessed.